So it turns out that an Australian crypto casino named Stake has just been exploited for $40 million. In this video we're going to find out how on earth did that happen and just how the hacker managed to exploit the exchange with this particular hack. Today's episode is sponsored by Cake Wallet, where you can send, receive and even exchange your crypto right from within the wallet. Cake Wallet is open source and non-custodial, so you control your own private keys. Available today on iOS, macOS, Android and Linux. Good evening everybody and a warm welcome back to Enter Crypto. I'm Chris Kenyon and every single day I bring you the latest update and the latest news of all the goings on in the cryptoverse. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then like, subscribe and click on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any future updates. Now today we're going to be talking about an exploit that's happened on an Australian crypto casino. They're called Stake, and it's basically a private key leak. And so, as always guys, we'll just quickly read through this article and then we'll comment after. So, cryptocurrency casino Stake appears to have been targeted by an exploit, with on-chain analyst Cybers reporting that $16 million has been withdrawn on the Ethereum network following a private key leak. Blockchain sleuth ZachXBT backed up Cybers' claim, stating that $15.7 million had been drained on Ethereum and another $25 million had been lost across Polygon and the Binance Smart Chain. Last year, more than $3.7 billion worth of crypto was lost to various hacks and exploits, although that figure dropped by 70% in the first quarter of this year. The stolen funds have been converted to Ether and transferred to several externally owned wallets, Cybers said. The Stake wallet that was targeted still holds $340,000 worth of ETH and $2.1 million in various altcoins, Etherscan data shows. Withdrawals from the wallet appear to have been paused, which is also a claim made by several users on Twitter. Stake is an Australian casino and sportsbook that allows users to deposit and play with crypto, and it made $2.6 billion in revenue in 2022, and this is according to a Financial Times report. So I'm personally not, well, I don't gamble anyway, so I wouldn't be familiar with how gambling platforms work within the crypto ecosystem, but although I do know some websites where you can gamble. I've never heard of this particular one, and I'm surprised actually because it's such a big one. Over $2.6 billion worth of revenue last year, you would think that we would know about it, but I don't. And the reason really that the article doesn't go into detail about the exploit is because a private key leak is basically just somebody knows the private key. So this could be, it's basically as simple as it gets when you hack or trying to steal somebody's crypto. And that is that somebody has somehow had access to the private keys. So it's very difficult to know how that could have happened unless you are in possession of, or you know somebody who's in possession of the private key. Now, this could most likely, or usually is one of the employees at the company. And so even if it's an employee at the company that's had access to the private keys, they may try to distance themselves from the leak by giving it to somebody that they know, somebody that they trust, and then that person carries it out. There's lots of ways of doing it, but it's basically just as simple as somebody has had access somehow to the private key. It could be as simple, you would hope it was more sophisticated than this for such a large company, but it could be just as simple as they've wrote the key down, the private keyword, the seed words down to access the private key, and then they've been careless with that piece of paper and somebody else has got access to it, and it could be something innocent like that, that actually the employee who's had access to it doesn't even know that they've been hacked until they've been hacked. So there's lots of different ways that it could have actually happened, and so it's impossible to just look at it. Certainly by looking at the blockchain, you would never know or be able to find out what happened exactly. And this is actually why multisig exists. A multisig basically doesn't let a transaction happen unless you have, for example, 2 out of 5 signers or 3 out of 5 signers. So 5 people will hold a particular private key, but to make a transaction, you would need 3 of those 5 to be able to access the funds. And so it just means that if one died or two people out of the 5 died, you would still be able to access the funds because you would only need 3 of the 5 people. But it also means that if one person wanted to run away and steal the money, they couldn't. And even if they conspired with 2 people, another person, they still couldn't. You would need 3 people. You would need you would need more people to want the transaction to happen than not, and so you would be able to make that once you had 3 out of the 5. And so just another example of crypto is really vulnerable to this all the time. You must look after your seed words. You must keep them safe. Put them in a bank safe if you have to. Deposit box, or just basically, or in the middle of the woods, just somewhere where it's not a place easily accessible to people, whilst still making sure that your family and loved ones, if something happens to you, are still able to obviously access it if the worst happens to you. So another interesting article, I actually find them quite interesting, these sort of exploits. This one's not particularly interesting, but they do get very sophisticated sometimes. And so if you've enjoyed this video, guys, don't forget to like. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll see you all tomorrow.